Today on Network Africa, spokesperson for South Sudan's former Vice President Riek Machar debunks claims that he has been abducted or being involved in the abduction of 30 children. The U.S. Embassy in Nairobi, Kenya is shut after a man was shot outside its premises. Plus, the UN identifies which countries have made the most migrants crossing the Mediterranean. And the UN also asks South Africa and Burundi to consider a withdrawal from the ICC. Hello everyone, I am Amarachi Ubani. We begin with what could be internal reflection going on in South Africa's African National Congress. A group of senior officers want the party to begin a corrective process of reclaiming trust and moral high ground in society. The group, which includes former Speaker of Parliament Frenay Ginwala and former Finance Minister Trevor Manuel, say they had a meeting on Tuesday following unsuccessful attempts to reach President Jacob Zuma through individual letters. The president has been under pressure to step down following the party's poor performance at municipal elections in August. The group, however, has declared outright support for embattled Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan. South Africa's Home Affairs Department says it is doing its best to tackle the long queues of the country's points of entry. Speaking at a press conference, the Director General of the department, Mr. Nkuseli Apleni, says special arrangements will also be made for the holiday season when the volume of visitors soars. Our South Africa Bureau Chief Betty Dibia reports.
The biometric capturing system was rolled out to build a database of foreign nationals coming into and leaving the country. Records show that numbers have increased over the past year and the Home Affairs Department is struggling.
Despite existing processes being designed to optimally manage the traveller demand, under-capacitation remains a critical vulnerability in the management of immigration at the airport, resulting in complaints about lengthy queues and delaying flights. We are continuing stakeholder engagements to improve service delivery at OR Tambo International Airport through partnerships aimed at improving communication, addressing resource requirements and exploring technology solutions to effectively resolve the capacity constraints.
Many visitors passing through have complained of missing connecting flights owing to the long queues of people at the points of entry awaiting biometric capture. It's easier for much earlier flights, like flights from Nigeria, say most of our respondents. But many worry about what it would be like during the approaching holiday season.
OR Tambo, in particular, will be looking now to make sure that during this season, we want to make sure that all those counters now will have a full staff complement. But we'll do that for a period of from the 8th up to about 10th of December, of January, but we'll still come back and announce now our operations during the festive season, but we will do so.
The Enhanced Movement Control System was launched in December last year for in- and outbound non-citizen passenger processing at immigration checkpoints in the country. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
A spokesperson for former South Sudanese Vice President Riek Machar, Mr. Joseph Pacheco, has denied being involved in the abduction of 30 school children in his state. 150 armed men had attacked 2 schools in the state earlier this week, and the governor is accusing the former leader of his involvement. Last month, former South Sudanese Vice President Riek Machar called for an armed struggle against the government of President Salva Kiir, a move that could mark a renewal of the country's civil war. Security forces in Nairobi, Kenya have shot dead a man wielding a knife in front of the U.S. Embassy and injuring a police officer. Investigation has begun into the incident, saying the man was killed by the police officer in self-defense. An embassy official confirms the shooting incident outside the mission but denied any involvement. Kenyan media said the officer had been guarding one of the entrances to the embassy compound when he was assaulted. As a result of that incident, the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi, Kenya has been shut, and citizens urged to go to a link online on what to do next. A statement released called them to review personal security plans, remain aware of their surroundings, even at local events, and monitor local news stations for updates. The man killed was identified as a Kenyan Somali from Wajir. He was known to the authorities. Ivorians are looking forward to voting on a referendum in the Constitution on Sunday, considered the most important change. If approved, it removes the age limit of 75 for presidential aspirants and scraps the requirements that both parents of presidential candidates must be native-born Ivorians. All of these are reflected on the President Alassane Ouattara, who will be 74 in a few weeks. Plus, he had been banned from standing in the presidential race in 2010 because his parents were from Burkina Faso. The country spiraled into political chaos after that. So what do Ivorians think? Some say the referendum should not happen, but rights groups and diplomats say a process that could have helped heal a deeply divided society has instead rushed out a document that few Ivorians have had time to read, much less debate. The authorities say they have respected the legal timetable for the referendum process and that a vote on the constitution must be held before legislative elections in December. Opposition groups are boycotting the vote, accusing Ouattara of tailoring the text to consolidate his power. And with no public debate, many on both sides are falling back on an adversarial position that caused earlier nearly a decade of bloodshed and economic stagnation. The President of the Assembly of State Parties to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, Sidiki Kaba, has called on South Africa and Burundi to reconsider their decision to withdraw from the court. At a press conference on Monday in Senegal's capital, Dakar, he said that he'd like to seize the opportunity to launch an appeal, first to engage in constructive dialogue at the Assembly of State Parties of Rome Statute to find a dynamic consensus. The next session of the Assembly of the State Parties of Rome Statute will be held from the 16th to the 24th of November in The Hague. Meanwhile, a second batch of African Union mission to Somalia troops, AMISOM, arrived in Adado, the capital of the interim Galmudug administration, where they will provide security during the upcoming presidential and parliamentary elections. Receiving the troops at the airport, Galmudug Vice President Mohammed Kashi said the troops will work with the Somali National Army and the National Security and Intelligence Agency in the region, providing security during the election in the areas where they will be taking place. The elections of parliamentarians to the lower house will begin as soon as Galmudug finalizes selection of delegates making up its electoral colleges. The country will then elect a president and a new upper and lower house of parliament in November. State assemblies will elect the 54 members of the upper house. The lower house will consist of 275 members elected by 14,025 delegates selected by 135 clan elders.